Zabit Magomedsharipov. Holy shit, that guy is fucking talented. And Mark Henry was telling me about this kid a long time ago. And he was telling me, he goes, I got a world champion. He goes, this guy's gonna be a world champion.
In the unforgiving mountains of Dagestan, legends are forged in silence and shaped by relentless discipline. Some fighters chase glory. Others are haunted by it. For 6 fights, the world witnessed artistry disguised as violence, a fighter who turned the Octagon into his canvas. Zabit Magomedsharipov was undefeated, untouchable. This is the story of a fighter who vanished at his peak, leaving behind only questions and the memory of what could have been. Some stories forever remain unwritten. Some legends never get their ending. This is the untold story of Zabit Magomedsharipov, the biggest what-if in UFC history. June 16, 2022. A simple Instagram post would send shockwaves through the MMA world. Assalamu alaikum, friends, it began. I know that many of you were waiting for my return, but I don't feel the way I used to. Just like that, one of the UFC's most promising stars announced his retirement. But here's the thing that made this different from every other retirement in combat sports history. Zabit Magomedsharipov was undefeated in the UFC. 6 fights, 6 wins, ranked number 3 in the world. At just 31 years old, he was supposed to be entering his prime, not walking away from it. What makes a fighter at the absolute peak of his powers just disappear? This is the story of the most mysterious retirement in UFC history and the ghost that still haunts the featherweight division. Khasavurt, Dagestan, March 1st, 1991. While the Soviet Union was crumbling around them, a future UFC star was being born into a world that would shape him into something extraordinary. Zabit Magomedsharipov entered a region that's produced more elite fighters per capita than anywhere else on Earth. This wasn't an accident. This was the result of a culture that treats combat sports like a religion. When most kids his age were playing video games, 11-year-old Zabit was already grinding on wrestling mats, learning the fundamentals that would later make him unstoppable. But wrestling was just the beginning. The 5 directions of the World Wushu boarding school. For most 12-year-olds, being sent away from home would be traumatic. For Zabit, it was destiny calling. This wasn't your typical martial arts school. This was a monastery disguised as a training facility. Students lived on campus for 10 to 12 years, completely dedicated to perfecting their craft. 3 training sessions every single day. No distractions, no shortcuts, no excuses. Under the guidance of Islam Makhachev, the school's co-founder, Zabit didn't just learn how to fight, he learned how to move like water, strike like lightning, and think 3 steps ahead of his opponents. While his future UFC colleagues were discovering girls and parties, Zabit was mastering techniques that would later leave commentators speechless. The discipline was monastic. Wake up before dawn, train, study, train again, eat, train some more, sleep, repeat, for over a decade. Most people would break under this routine. Zabit thrived. He wasn't just building physical skills. He was forging an unbreakable mindset that would serve him well in the pressure cooker of professional fighting. By the time he emerged from this crucible, Zabit wasn't just another fighter from Dagestan. He was an artist who happened to use violence as his medium. European Wushu Sanda champion, World Cup winner, multiple-time Russian champion. The accolades were piling up, but they were just rehearsals for the main event that was coming. But before we talk about his professional debut, there's one fight from his amateur days that deserves special mention, a combat sambo match that would gain legendary status years later, when both participants became UFC stars. 2013, the Nazran Combat Sambo Cup. In one corner, a young Zabit Magomedsharipov, already showcasing the creative brilliance that would make him famous. In the other corner, a grappling prodigy named Islam Makhachev, a name that would one day be synonymous with lightweight dominance and championship gold. For 2 rounds, these future UFC legends battled in what can only be described as a preview of Dagestani greatness. Zabit dominated the first round, using his superior positioning and technical creativity to control Makhachev from the mount position. For those 5 minutes, it looked like the artist was going to outpoint the wrestler. But Islam Makhachev didn't become a future champion by accident. In the second round, he showed the kind of adjustments and relentless pressure that would later make him virtually unbeatable in the UFC. He turned the tables completely, controlling the pace and imposing his will for the remainder of the match. The loss didn't define Zabit any more than the victory defined Islam. They were both still learning, still growing, still discovering the fighters they would become. In 2012, Zabit made his professional MMA debut. Most fighters stumble through their early careers, learning hard lessons through painful defeats. Not Zabit. From his very first professional fight, it was clear this wasn't just another prospect trying to make it. This was something special. His combination of traditional martial arts with modern MMA was unlike anything the sport had seen. He tore through regional competition like a hurricane. Creative striking that left opponents confused and commentators reaching for new adjectives. Ground game that was equal parts technical brilliance and pure artistry. By the time he caught the UFC's attention, Zabit had compiled a record that was almost too good to believe. 14 wins, just one early career loss, and a highlight reel that belonged in a museum. He wasn't perfect, though. In 2013, early in his professional career, a fighter named Igor Egorov caught him in an armbar during the third round of what had been a competitive fight. It was Zabit's first and only professional loss, a humbling experience that every great fighter needs on their journey to greatness. But regional success and UFC stardom are two completely different animals. The Octagon has a way of humbling even the most talented fighters. When the UFC offered Zabit a contract in 2017, nobody could have predicted he was about to embark on one of the most spectacular runs in promotional history. September 2nd, 2017, UFC Fight Night 115 in Rotterdam. For most fighters, a UFC debut is about survival. Get through your first fight, learn the lessons, build from there. Zabit had different plans. Facing Mike Santiago, a tough veteran who'd been testing prospects for years, the Dagestani showed up ready to make a statement. Entire life. Performance of the night bonus in his debut. The MMA world was officially on notice.
You're on an impressive win streak, backed up with an impressive performance again. You put the division on notice. You already got somebody in mind you want to face next?
Lobo. He said that he's ready for anyone who UFC will give him because it's just first fights in UFC. But there's one guy, he's talking too much, and he thinks that he's legend. This guy is Conor McGregor's sparring partner, Lobo, and he wants to show that this guy can talk but cannot fight.
If the Santiago fight was his introduction, his next performance was his coming out party. November 25th, 2017, UFC Fight Night in Shanghai. Shaman Moraes was supposed to be a step up in competition, a dangerous striker with knockout power who tested several prospects. Instead, he became another victim of Zabit's artistry, another performance of the night bonus, another statement made. But Zabit was just getting started.
After his debut, there was a lot of hype. Fans were like, man, this guy is special. I'm curious if he heard that, kind of felt the fan support, and if he feels the, I don't want to say pressure, but that people are expecting a lot out of him.
No pressure, indeed. It motivates me because I noticed that so many people around the world cheering for me, rooting. I got so many fans, that kind of surprised me, and it motivated me more.
Very cool. And what does he think he should come next? Because I think a lot of people feel that he's going to be a contender very soon. Does he want those big names right now? Does he still want to grow a little bit? What does he feel should come next?
Yeah, definitely I feel myself like in the top 15, the least, and I believe I can give a fight to any top 5 in my division. And if you ask me who I want to fight, I think the good fight gonna be Yair Rodriguez. I wish to fight with this guy because he's a flashy striker as well.
Next, Zabit would make his first appearance on a UFC main card.
English. Nie, angielska. No nie tak jak angielska. Ja вообще не умею, брат.
Okay, let's go. I'm gonna translate, brother. Let's go. Что ты говоришь?
Не, он говорит на русском, что я сказал.
Ну, говори, я ему на английском буду говорить.
Уже не пока.
But this guy need improve his English, brother. Without English, he cannot like promote himself. He need English. He said number one important, don't scare. He said this. Don't scare.
If you want to understand what made Zabit special, you need to watch his fight against Kyle Bochniak at UFC 223. This wasn't just a fight. It was a showcase of everything that makes mixed martial arts beautiful. Bochniak came to trade, bringing the kind of pressure and aggression that had broken other prospects. Zabit welcomed the chaos and turned it into art, timed perfectly. His submissions attempts flowed seamlessly from his striking that separate contenders from pretenders. The UFC brass took notice. They offered him a new multi-fight contract almost immediately. The message was clear. We've got something special here, and we're not letting him get away. In his post-fight interview backstage, Zabit revealed he had potentially broken his hand early in the fight.
Well, in the first round, I hit my right hand really hard, and I believe it's broken, but I'm not sure right now. But the rest of the fight, I couldn't use it.
Сказали, их тренера уже не приняли это бой, вот было такие.
Well, there was like 5 opponents who refused to fight me. That was, I don't remember all the names. The first one was the Artem Lobov, then it was Yair Rodriguez, and then and there was Andre Fili. First looked like they accept the fight, but like day after or 2 days after, they came refused like or didn't let them to take the fight. That's what happened actually. Well, I hope he'll accept it.
Мне разницы нет, я жду топ-10 любого бойца.
But be honest with you, I don't care exactly if it's gonna be Yair or any top 10 ranked fighter.
September 8th, 2018. UFC 228 in Dallas. Originally, this was supposed to be the fight that defined Zabit's trajectory, a clash with Yair Rodriguez, another young creative striker who was climbing the rankings. But Rodriguez pulled out, as he would do repeatedly in the years to come, and Brandon Davis stepped in as a replacement. What happened next would become the stuff of legend. For a round and a half, it looked like a competitive fight. Then Zabit decided to end it in the most creative way possible. The Suloev stretch. The replay went. By now, the hype was reaching fever pitch. Zabit wasn't just another prospect anymore, he was being mentioned in the same breath as the division's elite. But hype is one thing, and proving you belong with the killers is another. That test would come in the form of Jeremy Lil Heathen Stevens. Jeremy Stevens wasn't just another opponent, he was a legend. Someone who'd been knocking people unconscious since before Zabit turned professional. Someone who'd tested every major featherweight of the past decade. Someone who represented everything that was dangerous about the division started missing their mark. For the first time in his UFC career, conditioning questions started to creep into the conversation. The judges saw it clearly. Unanimous decision victory, another statement made. But those 5 minutes in the third round planted a seed of doubt that would grow into a major storyline. Could Zabit hang with the elite for 25 minutes? Was his conditioning a fatal flaw that would be exposed at the highest levels? These were the questions swirling around as he prepared for what would turn out to be the final fight of his UFC career.
He's in Boston, in his hometown, gets to fight somebody like Zabit, and the fight falls out. Now he's got to leave Boston and go to Russia.
The fight that was supposed to happen in Boston became the fight that actually happened in Moscow. Calvin Kattar, the hometown hero from Massachusetts, was supposed to face Zabit in front of his home crowd. Instead, due to Zabit's injury and subsequent rescheduling, they ended up halfway around the world at the CSKA Arena in Moscow, with an entire nation watching their countrymen chase history. November 9th, 2019. If you want to understand why Zabit's retirement hit so hard, you need to watch this fight. For 25 minutes, he put on. Then came the third round, and the conditioning questions that had been whispered after the Stevens fight became impossible to ignore. After the fight, Zabit stood in the center of the octagon, breathing heavily but victorious. The victory over Kattar should have been a launching pad. ranked number 3 in the world, undefeated in the UFC. The only question was who would be next. The answer seemed obvious: Yair Rodriguez. The Mexican striker and Zabit had been circling each other for years, originally scheduled to fight at UFC 228 before Rodriguez pulled out. August 29, 2020, UFC Fight Night 175. The fight was booked, the promotion was ramping up, and MMA fans were preparing for what promised to be a spectacular clash of styles. Then, with just days to go, Rodriguez pulled out with an ankle injury. Again. But behind the scenes, something much more serious was happening. Something that would make ranking concerns seem trivial by comparison. The first hints came from Russian media outlets in early June 2021. Cryptic reports about health issues, vague mentions of medical problems that were preventing Zabit from training properly. Then, reporter Igor Lazorin dropped a bombshell that explained everything. Zabit Magomedsharipov was dealing with immune system issues, the kind of medical issue that doesn't just threaten your next fight, it threatens your entire career. For a fighter whose entire identity was built around peak physical conditioning, this was devastating. Imagine spending your entire life perfecting your body as a weapon, only to have that body turn against you. Imagine being told that the very system designed to protect you from illness was the thing keeping you from your dreams. The surgery was scheduled, then postponed. Hope gave way to uncertainty. Uncertainty gave way to something approaching despair. And through it all, the MMA world waited for updates that never came. Their weight title. New contenders emerged and established themselves, and the spot that should have belonged to Zabit was filled by fighters who, talented as they were, never quite captured the imagination the way the Dagestani artist had.
Zabit.
Man, that's another one. Like, he was right there.
Right? He was right there.
Very close. He just had to have that one fight and then
he just disappeared.
I don't know what's going on with that.
In April 2022, Zabit announced he would be following in his father's footsteps and transitioning to medicine with an Instagram post saying, "The medical world of Makhachev will soon have a new name." Then it came, June 16th, 2022. The announcement came not with fanfare or press conferences, but with the quiet dignity that had characterized Zabit's entire career. An Instagram post in multiple languages, acknowledging what his fans had been dreading for months. Assalamu alaikum, friends. I know that many of you were waiting for my return. There was not a single day that someone did not ask when my next fight was. I want to officially announce that I am ending my career as a fighter. I don't feel the way I used to. And I think it's time to stop and give way to the younger generation. Just like that, one of the most promising careers in UFC history was over. No farewell fight. No final bow in front of his home crowd. No chance to show the world what might have been. Just a simple acknowledgement that sometimes the body says no before the spirit is ready to quit. Years later, the questions still linger. What would have happened if he'd gotten that title shot against Volkanovski? Could his creativity have solved the puzzle that so many elite strikers had failed to crack? Would his conditioning have held up over 25 championship rounds? His manager posted cryptic social media messages that sent the MMA world into a frenzy. For a brief moment, it seemed like the impossible might happen. Zabit had been seen training in Islam Makhachev's fight camp, which sparked rumors of a comeback. But that's all they were. Rumors. The UFC, recognizing what they had lost, reportedly made unprecedented offers to lure him back.
Часто бывает. Уже, как я сказал, уже они раза 4-5 выходили на связь, хотели встречу, приглашали в Америку, но у меня не получилось поехать.
Since retiring, Zabit has spent most of his time in the gym as head trainer for his brother Kassan. Kassan is undefeated with 10 wins and 7 finishes, and has potential to surpass his older brother. So what's Zabit Magomedsharipov's legacy? How do we measure a career that was simultaneously complete and incomplete? How do we evaluate someone who achieves so much while leaving so much undone? Maybe his legacy isn't about titles or championship reigns. Maybe it's about the moments of pure artistry he gave us. And maybe that's enough. Maybe the point of Zabit's story isn't what could have been, but what was. 6 perfect fights that showcased everything beautiful about mixed martial arts. 6 performances that reminded us why we watch. 6 chapters in a story that ended too soon, but burned bright enough to light up the sport forever. The Ghost of Dagestan may have vanished at his peak, but his legend will haunt the Octagon forever.